Shalom, this is Avraham Shira from Eretz Israel. Welcome to our little Erev Shabbat talk. We have a small piece from Sefer HaMidot. It's on the chapter on Shabbat. And he says something very simple. And usually with most simple things, sometimes our mind tends to gloss it. Keep on moving, I don't have to really pay that much attention, do I? It seems so simple. But the truth is, in Torah, the simpler something is, the deeper it goes. And you'll see that's true with people, that's true with ideas. Because when something is simple, it's approaching godliness. Simplicity itself is godly. The Holy Arizal describes that the original light of creation was Ein Sof, without end, with no definitions, with no limitations, with no parameters, with no handles. The ultimately simple light. But that ultimately simple light had tremendous power to create and to form and reform itself into the trillions of entities that we find around us today. Now, how is Shabbat a spiritual transaction? This is a simple idea. You pay for special food, special clothes, special china. That's Chinaware, right? And you set up your home in a special way for Shabbat. You're giving to the Shabbat. Listen to what the Rebbe says. Rebbe Nachman says, "HaTorah v'Maaser v'Shabbat hem notnim chayim gashmiim gamkem." That these three ideas, Torah, Maaser, and Shabbat, give us physical life. Now, chayim gashmiim, he doesn't say great wealth. He doesn't say you win the lottery. But he does say your physical needs will be taken care of. And I tell you, after 30 years of keeping Shabbat, it's true. We've come down many times to the end of the week with almost no money. And we said, okay, we'll give the rest of the money to Shabbat. And you go out and buy nice things for Shabbat, for your kids, for your wife, whoever, whatever. And you'll see by Sunday morning, there's more coming in. Somehow it happens. It always happens. So Shabbat is a form of a spiritual transaction. God says, keep my day and I will take care of you. So I'm giving something. I'm giving money. I'm giving time. I'm giving effort to Shabbat. And afterwards, it comes back. And it comes back usually twice as much, 3 times as much, depending on a lot of other factors. The purity of our heart and the necessity of our households and what we need for each individual situation. So now he includes in this Maaser, which of course is giving the first fruits to the Kohen, and then 10% is called Maaser, and then of that 10%, a portion goes to the Kohen, and then another smaller portion goes to the Leviim. Of course, all of that is in the times of the Mikdash. But nowadays we don't have a mikdash, and we give charity, we do maaser in general anyways, that whatever comes into the house, 10% should go off to others. Now it can go off to a multitude of locations, whether it's, giving $1 to a person on the street, or a shekel to a guy that, is asking at the door, or it's giving a big chunk of money to people who are doing something that you like and that you believe in Am Yisrael, some project, some spiritual activity, whether it's building a synagogue or buying a Sefer Torah or taking care of needy children. There's so many endless places where there is need. But this, again, is the same idea of a spiritual transaction. You take part of your effort, which is your sweat, your mind, your blood, your energy, all of it you gave to earning that living. And you say, a portion is not for me. A portion is for God. You give it to him, he gives back to you. This is another thing we've seen over and over and over again from the first days of Am Yisrael. We were given tremendous charity by the Egyptians. Now why? Because they wanted to get rid of us. They were tired of the plagues. They were tired of their own emperor, Pharaoh the great, who kept hardening his heart to not let the Jews go, in the end, they paid the Jews to go. That was a form of charity. When Avimelech stole Sarah's wife, and then he found out that it was Sarah's wife. Ooh, that was good. When Avimelech stole Sarah from Abraham, when the king of the Palestinians took the wife of Abraham, kidnapped her, and thought he was going to marry her, and he found out the hard way that she was already married to Abraham, his whole house, first of all, was stricken with a closure of bodily processes. Let's leave it at that. And afterwards, he said, "Why did you do this to me?" And Abraham said, "Because I saw there was no fear of God here." Now, he didn't do it on purpose. The kidnapping took place first. But in the end, Avimelech said, "Go, please go." And he gave him tons of wealth and flocks. Again, Avraham gave something of himself innocently, purely, and in the end, he received a tremendous amount in return. The spiritual transaction. The third example here is Torah. When you learn Torah. Now this is a little more refined. This is a little more esoteric because you're reading words from a book. You're saying words of Torah into the quiet of your little room where you meditate and try to get close to God. No one hears you. No one sees you. No one knows what you're doing. And you're just reading the words. Just like we're reading the words now. Or whether you're alone or with a few friends in the synagogue. You're saying words of Torah. How is this a spiritual transaction? And how does this provide for us in the returning side of God helping us with our needs? And really, when we talk about God giving back to us, and God's always helping us with our needs. So what's the difference? The difference, I'll tell you, is the rabbis say, is that he gives you what you need before you know you need it. That's called giving. That's called the hand of Hashem. When you know what you need and you go out and you take a deposit out of the bank, where's God? Well, he's there, but completely hidden. But when you don't know what you need and it just shows up, and you say, that's exactly what I needed, how did that happen? That's Hashem's way of showing you it's him. And don't worry. Never, ever worry about money. If we're going to worry about something, we should worry about, the welfare of our children and our neighbors and the future world and the nation at large and the human race. But worrying about money is a very small-minded position, unfortunately. But again, by learning Torah, how is that we give to the universe and the universe gives back to us? Well, it's because we are changing the psychic atmosphere around us. We are giving positive light to the world by saying words of Torah. Certainly if your heart is pure, and certainly if you're using all your strength and your concentration and you're really self-sacrificing, because maybe you took off time to work, from work to learn Torah, or you took off time from, doing other things with your friends to learn. Well, you're giving of yourself in saying those words. Again, it's your energy, it's your concentration, it's your desire. You're giving it back to the world around you. That elevates the people around you. That elevates even the plants and the animal kingdom benefit from the learning of Torah, because we're all interconnected and we're all receiving from an interlocking chain of life force that begins at the Ein Sof, at the infinite one, and it ends up coming out into our hearts, giving us the desire to wake up and do it again, and gives it to the trees to reach out for the sunlight in the morning, and the animals, everything reaches its desire for life is a godly thing. Just the desire to live. And if you don't believe me, go to the hospital and check out the people who don't have a desire for life. And you'll see how holy and how special it is just to want to be alive. Because these poor people in the hospital are suffering so much, they don't want to be here. anymore. They want to leave their bodies. It's over. Done. Finished. And most people don't really contemplate death too much until later in the game. But when you've been around it enough and you've seen how provocative it is to face death, well, if you face death and the end of things now, then you're really ready to live. And all of these activities, whether it's giving maaser or keeping Shabbat or learning Torah, and for that matter, most of the mitzvot that are in the Torah are included in this, that we are giving back to the world spiritual power. And that power creates a place of emptiness where God can refill us, refill our physical spiritual tanks and our spiritual ones. And if you don't believe me, it's okay. Try it. I don't bless or wish anybody to come down to their last 200 shekels. But if you do, give it away. See what happens. You know, people go to the casino all the time. Who are they betting on there? Well, let's not even go to that place of who they're betting on. They're betting on the house, the head of Caesar's Casino, the head of Trump International. I don't know who you're believing in when you go to gamble at a casino, but you're definitely believing in something that you might win. Instead of gambling on the house in Atlantic City or New Jersey, well, that isn't, I think that's the same place, right? Gamble on Hashem. Give your money to Hashem. Give your time through Torah learning to Hashem. Give maaser. When the check comes in, take off a bit and give it away. And you know, there's all kinds of rules and ideas about how and whom and where to make it the most noble type of giving, because people don't like to receive too much. It's embarrassing to need money. It's embarrassing to ask for it. And we don't want to embarrass other people by giving them in a way that they find it embarrassing to receive. So there's a lot of subtleties and sensitivity to this, but nonetheless, when you give that way, you will see support coming in. You will see that God will take care of things for you in ways that you never thought of. And try it. You'll see that it's an amazing thing, and it's part of the whole operation of the spiritual mechanics of the universe. Works this way. Between heaven and earth. Heaven is always giving to earth. And earth is, well, prosperous. But the only creatures that really give back to heaven are human beings, because we're the ones who are praying God's prayers, learning His books, doing His mitzvot. And therefore we keep the cycle of life force from heaven to earth, going back to heaven and back to earth, back to heaven. That cycle is what we're talking about here. And that's called in Kabbalah the feminine waters and the masculine waters. And so we keep the whole energy system flowing by doing these simple deeds. And, you know, when you give to Shabbat, look, you're enjoying it too, let's face it. But, you know, you have to give a little bit more. If I only buy a steak for myself, I'm in trouble. That's not the idea, right? That if you buy a candy bar for one kid, you better buy for everybody else, right? And so I think you understand what I mean, that the giving of Shabbat is the highest because it's for something where we don't do anything except enjoy. And that when we turn, you know, what we receive, when we give it back, it's just, you feel connected to life. And you could have $1 billion in the bank, but if you don't give something away, you're not going to feel connected to life. Not giving is connected to death. Okay, so we should all be blessed with that giving heart, with that willingness to reach out to somebody. And it can be large or small, it doesn't matter. It has to be, though, with honor and with respect. And there is subtlety involved, too, where you could even do it on a hidden way that no one even knows you're doing it. And that's the highest mitzvah, because the only one that knows is you and God. And it's a very special thing to have one mitzvah that's just yours with God. Nobody knows. Not your wife, not your kids, nobody. Not your rabbi, not your friends. I know lots of people, they do good deeds, really. And they go out and tell their friends about it. And I'm like, oh, don't tell us. Don't tell us. Keep it special. Have one mitzvah that's your special good deed between you and God. And that creates another bond, another intimate connection that we didn't have before. And you don't think that's special to God? Of course it is. He's running a massive corporation here called Planet Earth, called Universe 2020, 5780. But when one human being steps up and sanctifies a little bit of his energy and life force and love and awe by having that special place, that special mitzvah, it's worth it. It's like when you have kids and your kid upsets you all day long, all week long. The kid is upsetting you and then he does one good thing. You feel so good. You feel so repaired. You love the kid again with all your heart. And that's, a little metaphor, I think, for how Hashem can relate to us, because he's forgiving us all the time. And he wants something back. What does he want back? A loving relationship, true intimacy, honesty, awe, and appreciation. So we should be blessed with all those things. Have a wonderful Shabbat. We'll see you next week on all the platforms and outlets. I've been told, Avraham, tell people to friend you. Tell people to like you. It just feels weird. Doesn't it feel weird to you to go around telling people, like me? Push the button, like me. I don't know. I wasn't raised that way. If you like me, great. If you don't like me, well, okay. Talk to your congressman. But it just feels strange to ask for likes. But you know what I mean? This is the world of the internet. I guess we'll get over that too. And so look for you again, though. We'll be learning more on Torah Dalet and Likutei Moran on Patreon. And we're going to be presenting a class on riots and the righteous, and taking some stories from the Tanakh that really resemble some of the things that are happening today. That'll come out next week as well. Plus the poetry and the writing that are on our homepage. So God bless all of you and see you next week.